The metal mop bucket rattled against the wall as I pushed the supply room door open. I was looking for extra paper towels for the staff kitchen. What I found instead made my brain stall like a computer trying to process corrupted data. My husband's hands were on her waist. Her back was pressed against the shelves where industrial cleaners were stacked in neat rows. His wedding ring caught the fluorescent light as he leaned closer. Close enough that I could hear her breath hitch. Close enough to see the familiarity in how they moved together. This wasn't a first time. This wasn't accidental. Neither of them noticed me at first. They were too absorbed in each other. Too comfortable in their stolen moment. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. The supply room suddenly felt too small. Too bright. Too real. This was happening. In our workplace. During business hours. With our janitor. The woman I smiled at every morning. The woman I'd given Christmas bonuses to for 3 years. The binder I'd been carrying slipped from my hands. It hit the tile floor with a sharp crack that echoed in the small space. They froze. Literally froze like someone had pressed pause on a video. My husband turned slowly. So slowly I could count the seconds. His face drained of all color. Went from normal to ghost white in the span of a heartbeat. The woman, Anita, stepped back from him like she'd touched something hot. Her eyes went wide. Guilty. Terrified. No apology came. Not from either of them. Just silence that stretched and stretched until it felt suffocating. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Someone's phone rang in the distance. Normal office sounds continuing while my world fractured. Then he said my name. Michelle. Just that. Name. Not an explanation. Not an apology. Just my name spoken in a voice I barely recognized. Cheeky. I stared at him. At this man I'd been married to for 23 years. This stranger wearing my husband's face. My fingers curled into my palms so tightly my nails cut into skin. But I didn't yell. I surprised myself by staying calm. My voice didn't shake when I spoke. Didn't rise or crack or betray the earthquake happening inside my chest. Finish, I said quietly. Looking at both of them. You were busy. The words came out flat. Almost polite. Like I'd interrupted a meeting instead of my marriage being destroyed in a supply closet. My husband took a step toward me. Hand outstretched. Michelle, wait. This isn't what it looks like. I laughed. Actually laughed. A short, bitter sound that didn't sound like it came from me. It looks like you have your hands on someone who isn't your wife. In the building where we both work. So please, tell me what it actually is. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Had no answer that would make this better. Anita had gone completely still. Pressed against the shelf like she wanted to disappear into it. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was younger than me. Maybe 35. Pretty in a quiet way. Someone I'd never seen as a threat. The humiliation burned hotter than the betrayal. Scorched through me like acid. My name is Michelle Carrington. I'm 50 years old. I've been married to Philip Carrington for 23 years. We have 2 children both in college. A daughter studying medicine. A son pursuing engineering. We're proud of them. Built our lives around giving them stability. We work together at a mid-sized accounting firm. Philip is a senior partner. I manage human resources. We built our careers in parallel. Supported each other through promotions and setbacks. People at the firm called us a power couple. The married team that made it work. We had a routine that people envied. Morning coffee together before work. Lunch meetings that doubled as dates. Evening walks around our neighborhood. A marriage others described as solid. Respectable. The kind that lasted. I'd been proud of that. Proud of what we'd built together. The home that hosted holidays. The marriage that survived raising teenagers and career stress and financial worries. Now it felt like a stage set. Pretty from the front. Empty behind the scenes. This affair didn't just shatter my marriage. It threatened the life I'd built around stability and trust. around the belief that we were partners in everything. I didn't stay in that supply room. Didn't wait for explanations or excuses. I turned and walked out. Heard Philip call my name behind me. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. Just walked through the office with my head up and my face carefully blank. People glanced up as I passed. Noticed something was wrong. I could see it in their faces. The concern. The curiosity. Kept walking. Made it to my office. Closed the door. Sat at my desk and stared at the wall. My hands were shaking now. The calm was cracking. Adrenaline flooding through me in waves that made my vision blur. I'd protected this life so carefully. Managed our reputation. Maintained our image as the couple who had it together. The stable ones. The ones who made it look easy. And Philip had risked it all. For what? An affair with our janitor. In a supply closet at work. Where anyone could walk in. The recklessness of it staggered me. Not just the betrayal. The stupidity. The complete disregard for everything we'd built. For our careers. Our standing. Family. I sat there processing. Trying to understand. Failing completely. Philip followed me home that night. I'd left work early. Told my assistant I wasn't feeling well. Not a lie. Felt sick. Physically ill from what I'd seen. He came in talking too fast. Words tumbling over each other. Apologizing too vaguely. It didn't mean anything, he said. Pacing our living room while I stood perfectly still. It was stupid. A mistake. It just happened. I watched him perform contrition. Noticed how practiced it seemed. How rehearsed. She's just someone who works there, he continued. Just the janitor. Nothing important. That sentence stayed with me. Lodged in my brain like a splinter. Just the janitor. As if her position made the betrayal less. As if minimizing her would minimize what he'd done. As if I was supposed to feel better because he'd cheated with someone he considered beneath us. I said nothing. Let him talk himself out. Fill the silence with explanations that explained nothing. When he finally stopped, I nodded. Okay. He looked relieved. Actually relieved. Okay. So we can work through this. I heard you, I clarified. That's all. I heard your explanation. The relief faded from his face. The word just kept circling in my mind. She's just the janitor. Just someone who works there. Just a mistake. As if minimizing her humanity would minimize his guilt. But I'd seen them together. Seen the familiarity in how they moved. Comfort. Ease. That wasn't nothing. That wasn't just. That was something that had been happening long enough to develop rhythm. Pattern. Confidence in their stolen moments. I'd always been polite to Anita. Friendly even. We exchanged greetings every morning when she cleaned the executive floor. Small talk about weather. Weekend plans. She'd cleaned our offices for years. Been part of the background of our daily work life. Invisible in the way service workers often are. I'd never looked at her as a threat. Never. Considered her as someone in my husband's romantic orbit. That was my mistake. Assuming safety where none existed. Philip had taken that invisibility and used it. Hidden his affair in plain sight with someone nobody would suspect. Someone people would dismiss as just the janitor. It was strategic. Whether he'd planned it that way or not. The perfect cover. Until it wasn't. I chose not to confront Philip again that night. Didn't ask questions or demand details. Didn't cry or rage or make scenes. I nodded when he spoke. Listened without responding. Let him talk himself into believing the crisis was over. That I'd accepted his explanation. Forgiven him already. He went to bed relieved. Slept soundly beside me like nothing had changed. I lay awake. Staring at the ceiling. Mind racing. Not with emotion. With strategy. Philip thought this was over. That his apology had been enough. That we'd move forward and pretend it never happened. Sweep it under the rug like every other uncomfortable thing in our marriage. He was wrong. I wasn't ready to forgive. Wasn't ready to move on. I was ready to understand the full truth. The complete picture. How long? How deep? How much of our marriage had been a lie? So I started watching. Carefully. Quietly. With the same attention to detail I applied to my HR work. Documenting. Noting patterns. Building a case without him realizing he was being investigated. Philip had forgotten who I was before I became his wife. I'd worked in HR for 20 years. I knew how to gather evidence. How to build documentation that couldn't be disputed. Anita had cleaned our offices for years. She worked for the building's contracted cleaning service. Came in after hours mostly. But also during the day for special requests. Supply refills. Emergency cleanups. I'd always been kind to her. Made sure she got Christmas bonuses. Thanked her for her work. We had a friendly professional relationship. Nothing deep, but respectful. This wasn't random. That's what kept hitting me. This wasn't some spontaneous moment of weakness. Philip and Anita had history. Context. A relationship that predated that supply room encounter. How long had I been smiling at her in the hallways while she was sleeping with my husband? How many times had I thanked her for her work while she was destroying my marriage? The questions spiraled. Made me dizzy. Pushed them aside. Focused on what I could control. Evidence. Documentation. The next morning at work, I checked our office logs. When Anita was scheduled. Times. Days. Started matching them against Philip's calendar. Looking for overlaps. Patterns. What I found made my stomach turn. They aligned perfectly. Too perfectly to be coincidence. Philip told me the affair started recently. Used that word specifically. Recently. Vague enough to mean anything. Month. A week. Yesterday. He swore it was brief. A momentary lapse in judgment. Stress from work. Midlife crisis. All the usual excuses married men give when they're caught. I memorized every detail of his story. The timeline he created. The reasons he offered. The promises he made. Wrote nothing down while he talked. Just listened and catalogued. Let him believe I was accepting. Processing. Forgiving. Then I started checking. Cross-referencing. Verifying. Our cell phone bill arrived 3 days after I caught them. I'd always paid it. Managed our household finances. Philip never looked at the details. Just trusted me to handle it. This time I looked closer. Really looked. Not just at the total. At the itemized breakdown. Every call. Every text. Every data usage point. And there it was. A pattern I'd missed before because I hadn't been looking. Hadn't had reason to doubt. Now I had every reason. The number appeared over and over. Same digits. Different times. Late nights. Early mornings. During his work trips. During our anniversary weekend. The number that kept appearing on our phone bill didn't have a name attached. Just digits. But the frequency told its own story. Multiple calls every day. Long durations. 30 minutes. 45. An hour. Text messages in clusters. 20 in a row. Then nothing for a few hours. Then 20 more. The pattern went back months. 6 months. Almost a year when I scrolled to the earliest records. My chest tightened. Not from shock. From confirmation. Philip's timeline was a lie. This wasn't recent. Wasn't brief. Wasn't a moment of weakness or temporary lapse in judgment. This was sustained. Deliberate. Long-term. I sat at my kitchen table with the phone records spread in front of me. Cross-referenced them against Philip's work calendar. His travel schedule. Our family events. The calls overlapped with everything. Business trips where he'd called me every night. Except the calls to me lasted 5 minutes. The calls to her lasted an hour. Date nights where he'd been distracted. Checked his phone repeatedly. Work emergency, he'd said. Not work. Or our anniversary trip last year. The weekend getaway to the mountains I'd planned to reconnect. He'd taken calls in the bathroom. Disappeared for walks. Said his boss needed updates. All lies. Every single one. I didn't show Philip what I'd found. Not yet. kept the phone records hidden, went about my daily routine like nothing had changed, smiled at breakfast, made small talk about work, kissed him goodbye in the morning, played the part of the forgiving wife, the woman who'd accepted his apology and moved on. But I asked questions, casual ones, timed carefully. When did you say this started? How many times did you meet? Where did this happen? Philip answered readily. Relaxed because he thought the danger had passed. His answers never matched. The timeline shifted depending on when I asked. Sometimes it was 2 months, sometimes 6 weeks. The location changed. The frequency varied. He was making it up as he went, trying to minimize, contain the damage. Give me the least damaging version of events. I wrote nothing down while we talked, just nodded. Listen. Let him hang himself with his own inconsistencies. At night, after he fell asleep, I documented everything. Created spreadsheets, timelines, comparison charts, facts on one side, his statements on the other. The discrepancies were staggering. Every conversation revealed new lies, new contradictions, more proof that his brief affair was anything but. Philip's second apology came 3 weeks after I caught them. More elaborate than the first. He cried this time. Real tears streaming down his face. Held my hands and begged for forgiveness. I don't know what I was thinking, he said. Voice breaking. You're everything to me. Family. Our life together. I almost threw it all away. He blamed stress. Work pressure. Feeling invisible. Unappreciated. Made himself the victim somehow. The one who'd suffered. Who'd made a mistake out of pain. I'll do anything, he promised. Therapy. Counseling. Whatever you need. Just tell me we can fix this. I stayed quiet. Let him perform his remorse. Watched him like I was watching a stranger. This man I'd been married to for 23 years. Who I'd built a life with. Raised children with. I didn't recognize him anymore. Didn't trust a word coming out of his mouth. I appreciate you saying that, I said. Finally. Carefully neutral. He looked hopeful. So we can move forward. I'm still processing. His face fell. How long? As long as it takes. I stood up. Left him sitting there. Went to bed in the guest room. Started sleeping there permanently. Told him I needed space. He didn't argue. The phone records I'd hidden told a story Philip's apologies couldn't change. Durations. Hard data that didn't negotiate or make excuses. The truth doesn't argue. Just waits. Sits there solid and undeniable until you're ready to face it. I wasn't ready to show Philip yet. Wasn't ready for the confrontation that would end everything. Part of me still hoped I was wrong. That there was some explanation that would make sense. Some reason the calls existed that didn't mean betrayal. But the hope was small. Getting smaller every day. Called the number once. From a blocked line. Just to confirm. Anita answered on the third ring. Hello. Anxious. Uncertain who was calling. I hung up without speaking. Sat there feeling sick. It was real. All of it. The affair. The lies. The complete destruction of everything I'd believed about my marriage. That night I went through our bedroom. Looking for more evidence. Found a second phone hidden in his sock drawer. Burner phone. Cheap prepaid model. Powered it on. The messages loaded slowly. Hundreds of them. All to and from Anita. Going back over a year. Sweet messages. Sexual messages. Plans to meet. Complaints about me. About our marriage. How he couldn't wait to be free. The messages on the hidden phone were worse than anything I'd imagined. Explicit details about their encounters. Places they'd met. Times they'd stolen together. But worse than the sexual content were the emotional messages. Declarations of love. Promises about a future together. Philip planning a life with her. Talking about leaving me. Divorcing. Starting over. Just a few more months, one message read. Then I'll tell her. We can finally be together. That message was dated 3 months ago. 3 months he'd been planning to leave me. While eating dinner at our table, sleeping in our bed, pretending everything was fine. I took screenshots of everything. Hundreds of them. Organized by date and content. Downloaded them to a cloud drive he didn't know existed. Created backups of backups. Made the evidence impossible to delete or deny. Then I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Buried in his sock drawer. Let him think his secrets were still safe. That I'd accepted his explanations. Forgiven his brief mistake. The calls overlapped with everything important in our marriage. Our daughter's graduation. Our son's college acceptance. Our 22nd anniversary. Moments I thought were real. Moments I'd treasured. All poison now. All lies. I stopped arguing with Philip completely. Stopped asking questions. Stopped engaging with his apologies and promises. Just went quiet. Polite. Distant. It unsettled him more than any confrontation could have. He started panicking. Following me around the house. Trying to start conversations. Asking what I was thinking. What I was feeling. Are we okay? He'd ask. Multiple times a day. I don't know, I'd answer. Honest. Simple. What do you need from me? Space. How much space? I'll let you know. He started making grand gestures. Flowers delivered to my office. Expensive jewelry left on my dresser. Love notes tucked into my car. All things he'd never done in 23 years of marriage. Suddenly he was the perfect husband. Attentive. Romantic. Desperate. I accepted the gifts with polite thanks. Wore the jewelry once. Let him think it was working. Meanwhile I kept documenting. Kept gathering evidence. Built my case piece by piece. Called a lawyer. Not for divorce yet. Just for consultation. Wanted to understand my options. My rights. What I'd be entitled to if this marriage ended. The apology that came too late arrived on a Tuesday. Philip came home from work early. Found me in the kitchen making dinner. Got down on his knees. Actually knelt on our kitchen floor. Michelle, please, he begged. Hands clasped like prayer. I can't live like this. The silence. Distance. I need to know if you can forgive me. If we have a future. I looked down at him. This man on his knees. Crying. Begging. Performing remorse with his whole body. Once this might have moved me. Might have broken through my anger and hurt. Made me want to comfort him. Reassure him. Now I felt nothing. I can't forgive what I don't understand, I said quietly. I've told you everything. No, you've told me a version. The one you think I can accept. But I know there's more. His face went pale. What do you mean? I mean I'm not stupid, Philip. I know this wasn't brief. Wasn't recent. Wasn't a mistake. Michelle. I'm not ready to hear more lies, I interrupted. When you're ready to tell me the truth. The complete truth. We can talk. Until then, I have nothing to say to you. I stepped around him. Left him kneeling on the kitchen floor. Went to the guest room. Locked the door. Heard him crying in the hallway. Didn't open the door. I decided to show him the phone records on a Saturday. Deliberately. Carefully. Chose the day and time for maximum impact. Philip was relaxed. Watching television. Drinking beer. Comfortable in his belief that the crisis had passed. I'd been civil lately. Less distant. He thought he was winning me back. I walked into the living room. Set the stack of printed phone records on the coffee table between us. Said nothing. Just placed them there and stepped back. Philip glanced at them. Looked confused. What's this? Your phone records. For the past year. I watched his face change. Color draining. Eyes widening. Hands starting to shake. Michelle, I can explain. Don't. My voice was steady. Cold. Don't say another word until you look at what's there. He picked up the first page. Scanned it. Put it down. Picked up the second. Third. His hands shook harder with each page. I'd highlighted every call to Anita's number. Marked them in yellow. Impossible to miss. Impossible to deny. The dates are interesting, I continued. Conversational. Clinical. Your story kept changing. Sometimes you said 2 months. Sometimes 6 weeks. These records show 11 months. Almost a year, Philip. A year of lying to my face. His story collapsed right there in our living room. The careful timeline he'd constructed. The minimized version of events. The brief mistake narrative. All of it fell apart under the weight of documented evidence. I didn't mean, he started. Started again. It wasn't supposed to. Couldn't finish. Had no explanation that would work. The dates didn't align. His lies contradicted themselves. The phone records told a story he couldn't talk his way out of. Our anniversary, I said, pointing to highlighted calls on one page. You called her 6 times that weekend. Talked for 3 hours total. While I was planning romantic dinners. Buying you gifts. Believing we were reconnecting. He buried his face in his hands. Our daughter's graduation, I continued. 5 calls that day. Including one during the ceremony. You said it was work. It wasn't. Michelle, please. Our son's college acceptance. The night we celebrated as a family. You stepped outside twice. Said you needed air. You were calling her. Each example landed like a blow. I watched the arrogance drain from his face. The confidence that he could manage this. Contain it. Control the narrative. Replaced by horror. Realization. Understanding that I knew everything. That his performance of remorse had been transparent. That he'd lost. The consequences spread naturally after that. I didn't have to do anything. Didn't expose him publicly or seek revenge. Just stopped protecting him. Stopped managing our image. Let reality catch up. Word got out at work somehow. Workplace affairs never stay secret long. People talk. Notice things. Put pieces together. Philip's reputation suffered. The senior partner who'd had an affair with the janitor. In a supply closet. During work hours. Colleagues who'd respected him started avoiding him. Clients requested different account managers. His position became untenable. He took early retirement. Called it voluntary. Everyone knew it wasn't. Our children found out. I didn't tell them. Philip did. Tried to control the narrative. Spin it as a mistake he'd owned. They didn't buy it. Our daughter stopped calling him. Our son cut his visits short. Came to see me. Not us. The family unity we'd built fractured. Not because of the affair. Because of the lies. The year of deception. The complete betrayal of trust. Philip lost his standing. His career momentum. His relationships with his children. All by his own hand. All consequences of choices he'd made repeatedly over 11 months. Anita left her job 2 weeks after everything came out. I heard through workplace gossip. She'd resigned. Given no notice. Just stopped coming. I wondered if Philip had told her I knew. If she'd panicked. Realized the affair was public now. That her job was at risk. Or maybe she'd learned the truth about Philip. That he'd lied to both of us. Told her he was leaving me. Made promises he never intended to keep. Used her the same way he'd used me. I felt a strange sort of sympathy for her. She'd been sold a story. Believed in a future that was never real. Philip had manipulated both of us. Just in different ways. I didn't reach out to her. Didn't seek confrontation or closure. Just let her disappear from our lives. Hope she found something better. Someone honest. A relationship built on truth instead of lies. Philip tried to contact her after she left. Used the burner phone I wasn't supposed to know about. I could see him checking it. Looking confused when she didn't respond. Didn't answer his calls. She'd walked away clean. Smarter than I'd given her credit for. Saved herself before the situation got worse. What Philip lost over those months was staggering. His career trajectory. His reputation in our professional community. His relationship with our children who couldn't look at him the same way. His marriage. His home. I filed for divorce 3 months after showing him the phone records. No fanfare. No dramatic announcement. Just hired a lawyer. Filed papers. Served him at work. He tried to fight it initially. Claimed we could still fix things. That he'd do anything. Change anything. But I was done. Past done. The evidence made the divorce straightforward. Adultery documented with phone records and messages. Financial infidelity. Emotional abandonment. My lawyer was thorough. Philip's reputation was already damaged. Trying to fight would only make things worse. He settled. Got the house. Fair division of retirement accounts. Spousal support for 5 years. He moved into a small apartment across town. Took only what was his. Left quietly. No more grand gestures. No more apologies. Just acceptance that it was over. That he'd destroyed something that couldn't be rebuilt. The trust was gone. The foundation shattered. No amount of sorry could fix that. What I walked away with was more valuable than any asset division. Clarity. Finally understanding who I'd been married to. The real Philip. Not the version he performed. Independence. A life that belonged entirely to me. Not built around managing his image or protecting our reputation. Is true peace. The kind that comes from not wondering. Not questioning. Not lying awake, analyzing every interaction for signs of deception. I didn't need closure from Philip. Didn't need him to explain why or how or what he'd been thinking. The phone records had given me all the answers I needed. 11 months of deliberate choice. Sustained deception. Calculated lies. That told me everything about his character. About what our marriage had meant to him. I moved forward without him. Started rebuilding. Found a new job at a different firm. Reconnected with friends I'd neglected. Took up hobbies I'd abandoned. Discovered who I was outside of being Philip's wife. Like that person. Respected her. She was stronger than I'd realized. More resilient. More capable of standing alone. Philip tried contacting me several times after the divorce finalized. Calls I didn't answer. Emails I didn't read. Messages passed through mutual friends. I ignored all of it. Had nothing left to say to him. Nothing he could offer that I wanted. No explanation that would matter. I didn't block him. Didn't need to. Just chose not to engage. Chose silence over confrontation. Distance over drama. That choice was power. The ability to simply opt out. To not participate in his attempts at reconciliation or justification. He wanted absolution. Wanted me to tell him he wasn't a terrible person. That what he'd done was understandable. Forgivable. I wouldn't give him that. Wouldn't absolve him of responsibility. Wouldn't make his guilt easier to carry. That was his burden. His consequence. His to manage alone. Our children eventually forgave him. Partially. Built new relationships with boundaries. They were adults. Made their own choices. I didn't influence them either way. Let them navigate their feelings about their father without my input. My relationship with Philip was over. Theirs was separate. Different. Not my place to manage. My name is Michelle Carrington. I'm 51 years old now. I was married for 23 years to a man who hid an 11-month affair while I trusted him completely. Who lied repeatedly even after being caught. Who tried to minimize and manipulate until documentation made denial impossible. The phone records that made his apology useless weren't revenge. They were truth. Evidence that spoke louder than any explanation. That couldn't be argued or dismissed or explained away. I didn't need revenge. Just needed to know the complete picture. The full truth. Once I had that, the rest was simple. Walking away wasn't weakness. Wasn't giving up. It was choosing myself. Choosing truth over comfortable lies. Choosing peace over performing a marriage that existed only for appearances. I rebuilt my life from scratch. New job. New routines. New understanding of what I deserved. Philip tried to rebuild too. Found some success eventually. Never quite recovered his previous standing. Our paths don't cross anymore. We exist in separate orbits, separate lives. The woman who believed in our marriage is gone. The woman who documented the truth and walked away with dignity is still here, still standing, still strong. Knowing your worth doesn't require revenge. Just the courage to face the truth when it's undeniable. And the strength to walk away when staying would mean betraying yourself. Found both. And I've never looked back.